And we're live! Welcome back, everybody. All my fellow thespians. Who doesn't love saying thespian? It's just a fun word. And of course, all our lovely stage and crew, etc., etc. You know, there are no small parts, just small people. My name, as always, remains Gary Mitchell. I am the stage director, I guess, because I am definitely trying to avoid just regular director. I am rambly tonight. Hi, it's Friday. So we are here with another one of our live panels. Thank you for joining us. There are a lot of things you could do on a Friday night, and you're here, and we appreciate that. This will also be on the YouTube later, so if you're watching in the future, how is it there? Is it friendlier? Give me a lot of numbers. I am joined, as always, by my strong right hand, Miss Sarah Rose.
Hi, guys.
And we are here to talk about the queer revolution, LGBTQI+, in the theater. And we have a lovely panel of experts to talk with us today. And I'm just going to go around the horn based on how they look on my stage right. And we will start with the lovely and talented Vulva Vavoom. Please tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself.
God, I can talk about myself endlessly. Let me rein it in. So I'm Vulva Vavoom. My pronouns are they, them. I started performing theater professionally in the 1990s and was in the legit theater world for a long time. Then somewhere circa 2006, I discovered the world of underground nightclub cabaret, worked in that circuit for a long time. And 7 years ago, I discovered experimental and alternative theater festivals, especially fringe theater festivals, and have been working on that circuit for quite a while. We tour our shows nationally, and so bless you.
Sorry.
I'm kind of here to be a voice of not so much what's happening mainstream on Broadway, but more experimental spaces and smaller circuits.
Yes, because as we all know, no one in theater ever experiments.
Never at all.
Not when they've got a few $1 million invested in a Broadway production. They usually don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, that one time in college, Christy is our next person. Please introduce everybody to yourself.
Hi, my name's Christy. She, her. I have been active in the theater community. Once again, since about the mid-90s, about middle school time, I've been performing on stage since, I started doing dance at a very young age. I do mostly small community stuff because of where I live. It's about all that's available. Really wish I were in a bigger city or we had that high-speed train that goes to Atlanta. Would be great right about now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's me.
And also joining us is the multi-talented Courtney. Please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, Courtney Bliss. I did all 4 years of high school. I was on stage crew for my high school musicals. And since then, I've been more of a fan than anything else. And right now I'm actually working on my dissertation for my PhD in American Culture Studies on kind of theater fandom, and specifically looking at Hamilton and how, basically how white people are into all of this rap and hip hop. But in general, I've kind of, been working within like just kind of theater fandom, because there's not much out there in the scholarly area that actually looks at theater fans. And to me, that's just as important as talking about the history of theater and all that. So.
Well, yeah, it's the fans that drive the productions. If no one shows up to watch your show, then it doesn't last.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we may actually have to do that as another panel topic sometime, because I find that very fascinating.
Definitely.
All right. But today's topic, as I mentioned earlier, we were talking about the queer revolution, breaking the Broadway mold, and how, this may come as a shock, but apparently there are gay people in theater.
What?
I know. never would have suspected. So we're here to talk about kind of the history of that, talk about what's going on in the past, what's going on now, how it's impacted us, how it's impacted Broadway and beyond. It's a very, very large topic. I'm sure we won't cover everything there is to say. And as always, anybody who is watching along, please send us your comments and your questions, and we will address them in the panel. And I am going to kick things off with our first discussion point is, who is everybody's, I like to call it the, oh, that's me, or I didn't know that was an option, either show or character, where it was like, wait a minute, you mean I don't have to be straight? Whoever wants to go first, jump right in. Go right ahead. Thank you, Volva.
Sure. Well, today's a very appropriate day for it, although this is always one of my go-tos. The 16th of July is the 50th anniversary of the premiere of the Rocky Horror Show in London. So it's a very special day for one of my fandoms. But putting it within the context, right, it's very easy to say, well, Frankenfurter is a villain and a horrible person. But when you put it in the context of, say, the Stonewall riots, or the context of Leather Daddies, Diesel Dyke, Mamas out being very, very visible and very, we're here, we're queer, get used to it, don't fuck with us, throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, that whole time period, in order to be visible, sometimes you had to be a little bad. You had to get in people's faces and say, all right, I'm not just the inoffensive, the inoffensive neighbor, or the brother-in-law, in ragtime or what have you. But I'm here to be a force, a powerful force, and sometimes that powerful force is a villain.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's queer coding, which is a whole other panel.
Yeah,
is a legit thing, and that's, I think, a lot of people discovered I identify with them, with the villains, because of that. And I love the fact that they've, the kind of the unintended side effect of society of, hey, we're going to make the villains queer coded, and so people will hate them, and instead we have a whole generation of people going, can I be bad? I want to be bad.
Let's be bad.
I want to be bad. Sorry.
I want to be dirty, if we want to keep with the one we mentioned. But yeah, and Rocky Horror is definitely a landmark. There's a lot of, I've seen there, like a few years ago, there was kind of a pushback against Rocky because of when it came out and the way it does handle some issues. But Volva, you nailed it on the having to talk about it within the context. We're only talking a few years out from Stonewall. Pride is still just becoming a thing. And Rocky did have a major impact.
Yeah.
I will add to that. So I did an entire 60-minute show that I still I can tour it when I have someone for the secondary role, but it's an entire breakdown of how, as a transmasculine identified 15-year-old in the mid 90s, to be driven an hour into a bigger city and go to a midnight showing was really the only gender non-conforming representation I could find, and the only non-heteronormative representation I could find. And that was incredibly special to me as a queer youth, to see people not just accepting, but celebrating and acting out as a ritual, this very queer positive environment that they created. And I think that that's something that's carrying forward. The fact that it's still relevant in Florida today and pissing off Governor DeSantis speaks very well of its efficacy.
Indeed. All right, Courtney, how about you?
Well, I think for me, it probably was Rent. Because I was a freshman in high school when we got, for concert band, we got this medley of Rent songs. And I was at a small Catholic high school in, technically it's a city, but really mentally it's a small town in Ohio. And my band director, she went to the library and she got out the Rent cast album to play the actual songs for us. And she was like, don't tell anybody else. Because, I mean, this included like La Vie Boheme.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't, yeah, Rent, La Vie Boheme, Seasons of Love were in there. Yay. And she just played those songs. And I was like, I want to listen to more of this. So I was probably the reason why the library had the cast album for so long, because I just kept getting it out. And as, now I have the words genderqueer and demisexual to use. At the time, no, those words weren't around, but I'm just listening to the story going, they're weird. I'm weird. Yay. Mm-hmm. And also my mom was like, well, don't identify too much with them because they're all bohemian and you don't want to be like that. And it's like, sure. Right, whatever.
Yeah, it's the bohemians I want to be like.
Oh, yeah. Then again, I'm not sure how queer she realized it was, but yeah, she was just, they're singing about being happy about being poor, starving artists, and I'm in high school and I like to draw and stuff. And she was always like, make sure you get a degree in something you can actually, get a job in, which wasn't a hard thing because my drawing's not that good. So, but yeah.
Oh, no.
So were you actually able to use your degree to get a job?
Well, my bachelor's is actually, what I got my bachelor's degree in is nothing related to what I'm doing now, but yes, I could have used it to get a job. And since then, I found popular culture studies and American culture studies, and I'm having much more fun.
Can we speak for a moment about specifically Angel? Because I know for me, Angel was the first transgender character I saw in what had become a mainstream piece of media. Who was not depicted as a victim. She was very empowered. And up to that point, I had only ever seen a transgender person portrayed as like a very, very, a sex worker on the streets in a very mentally unhealthy place and doing very self-sabotaging things. And I think we can all agree that Angel is a very empowered character. And that was something really beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. No, Angel specifically was a big, like, first time seeing them on the main screen. For me, like, definitely Angel was that person for me as well.
All right. And Christy.
Well, I got to jump on the Rent bandwagon, obviously. I was still in high school when it came out. I discovered it my senior year and became obsessed. Especially with the pairing of Maureen and Joanne, because I had friends. This was the 90s, and even though it was South Atlanta, you weren't gay. You didn't come out. You didn't tell anybody. So I had friends who were very effeminate. I had very butch female friends, and seeing, especially with Maureen, that she had been with Mark. Now she's Joanne. Oh my God, you can what? You can like boys and girls? What? Kind of blew my mind. Joanne is still a pipe dream role of mine. Yeah. We were all obsessed with it when I got to college, to the point that we would stand outside the Fine Arts Hall at Columbus State and sing the entire soundtrack. Everyone had their roles. I always wanted to be Mimi. I am not a soprano. I cannot hit some of those notes. Yeah. So that was really my kind of introduction to, holy shit, you don't have to be pigeonholed into one thing.
Well, and that's really why a lot of these stories are so important, because I've said this before, other people have said this, and I always 100% believe this. Representation matters. Representation matters. Representation effing matters. We need to be able to see ourselves in so much of the culture. As an old fart, I remember when it was like, the gay people were bad. We don't talk about it, and like you said, Christy, even nothing past that is bad. There's no such thing as trans and whatever. It was just all, And we'd better do anything we can to stop these perverts. And then and so you get that message pounded on you constantly. And then you go see Rent, you go see Rocky, you go see something which shows you that, hey, the world is bigger than you're being told, and there's a place for you in it. Is a message that literally saves lives.
It really does. And that's the thing that so many people don't understand. Seeing yourself on screen and on the stage in this case is such an important part of people understanding that I'm not just I'm different, but I'm not just weird. And being weird, especially like when I was growing up, seeing people who were artists and seeing people who, didn't necessarily conform was a really big, important part for me. And I can only imagine like how hard it was before my generation when that wasn't a thing. It really wasn't. It wasn't around. And, that's kind of what makes me scared for today's youth, because they're trying to take that away again. And so, I think it's an important, it's more important than ever to see yourself on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like it's what keeps gay kids from becoming dead kids.
Yeah.
Not to bring the topic down, but yeah, I mean,
well, that's okay. We can speak of serious things and how things are a total bummer, and then we just have to be funny enough to throw in a joke after we discuss the very serious thing. That's the secret. So we can talk. I can talk about how seeing that representation, helped my suicidality as a teenager, and then it's like my job or someone else's job to throw in a yuck there to bring us all back up.
Like just realizing I used the bi finger guns,
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, in his here, I'm representing, only straights like sleeves. So.
Sleeves are bullshit.
So
wait, there are straight people in theater?
What?
Look, somebody has to run the front of the house.
Did you listen to our Lord and Savior when he said it's not just for gays anymore? During the Tony Awards.
Yeah, we're letting this. Lin-Manuel is showing the straights. No, it's fun. Come on. So we're going to start with you, Courtney, this time. Who is your favorite, if we haven't already said it, who is your favorite LGBTQI character in theater, and why? If you need a minute, is somebody else ready to go?
Yeah, somebody's ready to go.
I am ready to go.
Go.
I'm going to stick with Maureen on this one. I mean, keep in mind, I am perfectly aware Maureen is a problematic person, but in and of itself, she showed me it's okay to be you. And like that is like why she is my favorite. Like every time she's like, I'm unapologetically myself. And I'm all about that. And whether that's mooing on stage or, being like, there will always be women in rubber flirting with me. She's unapologetically herself. And that is why she is my favorite.
Can we draw some parallels between Maureen and Frankenfurter and some of the other? I'm just going to create a little bucket, right? It's very high charisma, sexually non-conforming characters who become these elements of chaos in the lives of the other characters in the show, and they kind of serve as that little, you shake a can of spray paint and it's that little ball in there that shakes everything else up. They're very important to the plot and they move things forward. And yes, you can argue that it's not perhaps the best representation, but maybe it is. because they are there keeping life very interesting.
They are.
Mhm.
Christy or Courtney, either one of you ready? Or Volva?
Well, I guess, I mean, I know it's going to sound a little problematic, but I always loved Ellen, whatever she did. I mean, back in the day, that was the representation that we got. You know, really, on my high school played it safe. And even though we had the Fox 30 minutes away, you really still got your safe shows, your Nutcracker, your ballets, your Dracula was about as queer as you got. And let me say, the guy that played Dracula the night I went to see it when the Atlanta Ballet did it was, oh my God, amazing. I've never forgotten that. And that was over 20 years ago. And I completely forgot where I was going with that tangent.
Ellen.
I'm ADD AF today. So.
You were discussing Ellen.
Yeah. I mean, she was really the one who began to pave the way for more. I remember the episode. I remember the People magazine. Yes, I'm gay. I remember all that. I remember the backlash. I remember the flack that she took. And just basically, she was what kind of in the entertainment industry. I would say, growing up with her and probably maybe Elton John, who then went on to give us, Aida and fucking Lion King and everything great that, all these great late 90s, early 2000s shows that we got on Broadway. And it just kind of, character, we wouldn't have some of these characters without those performers who were able to kind of give us, to kind of pave the way for us to kind of have that representation. I have no idea what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Can I piggyback on that? Oh, sorry.
Absolutely. Save me.
So Ellen, right? And I think I'm probably a little bit older than you, but kind of that same era of, oh God, oh, the straights like this person. Oh, the straights are, oh, she's wearing short hair. Oh, she wears a pantsuit instead of a dress. My God. Younger people, I think it's a little hard to understand what the times were like back then, because there was such a wide swath of conformity. And if you fell outside of that conformity, you were suspect as a pervert. And I like to draw a parallel between Ellen DeGeneres and one of my favorite singers. I'm a hipster. I don't know if anybody's heard of him. His name is Nat King Cole. So he was the first African-American person with their own television show in the 1950s. And he was, God, just a wonderful, wonderful entertainer. And he would sing these beautiful songs with his amazing voice. But he had to kind of conform, and he had to kind of push himself into a little bit of a square box and he had to chemically straighten his hair, and he had to kind of tone down his accent just a little bit in order to appeal to that broad demographic. And there are those who would argue that he was having to compromise his artistry and his integrity. I would argue no, because he is the person, just like Ellen, who got that representation in front of mainstream America and made them admit, oh, we have to respect you. We have to respect you for who you are. And I think that Ellen really accomplished that for us in the 90s. Whatever people may say about her as far as it goes, like someone to work with.
Yeah, well, society is always, again, is doing that message of this is the way it is, and this is the wall, and you can't go through this wall until someone comes along, like Nat King Cole, like Ellen, and goes, no, I'm going through this wall. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates open. So we have to respect those people that do put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And
and for me, the first one, like, I was a little young for Ellen, but Lance Bass, that was another one. Like, I mean, quite literally floodgates opened because this man is a sex symbol almost. Okay. He was the creme de la creme of his time, who wasn't Justin Timberlake. And he said, I'm gay. And so, those are the people. And yes, they are part of the people that allowed it to become more mainstream, but they took that risk, but they took the risk before many mainstream artists were willing to do that. And so irregardless of how you feel about people like Ellen or Rosie, even I'll throw her out there as well. You've got to respect the risk they took, saying what they did.
Yeah, these are people who put their literal lives and their careers in jeopardy. Everybody talks about, how closeted and how horrible why didn't you just come? It's like, people, I remember Barry Manilow finally came out and everybody started going flack of, well, why? We all knew, why didn't you come out years ago? And he's like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same reason, Freddie Mercury. I mean,
but was he ever really in?
But he wouldn't say it.
Well, there's that.
But he did.
In the end, that for several years he did not. There was the question,
right? It's plausible deniability was the name of the game. So when we look at someone like Liberace, or we look at, you remember on Hollywood Squares, Paul Lynde, right? Paul Lynde he had flaming mannerisms and he leaned right into it. However, he had that plausible deniability because, as you say, people could come after you. I'm working on a solo show right now about Katharine Hepburn was gender non-conforming. She had a male alter ego named Jimmy. And only because she was a mega, super, ultra, unbelievable superstar was she able to say, I'm gender non-conforming. But she still risked people coming at her, as you said, Gary, coming at her, attacking her and tearing down the image. It's a risk that Lance Bass took, that Ellen DeGeneres took. These are the people who helped pave the way for us.
Yeah. Well, and all you have to do is look back and just say the name Rock Hudson.
Yeah.
And I'm glad there's a new documentary that's about to come out. I think it's hitting HBO about him and that whole thing. And it takes someone on that level sometimes of unassailability, him, Hepburn, like you mentioned, for someone like that to finally have the guts to come out that makes everybody go, wait a minute, because there's always, like you said, there's always Paul Lynde, there's always the little people, there's always the guy who is I can't remember his name now, Victor something.
Borgia?
Yeah, Victor Borgia. No, he was King Victor. Yeah, he was King Tut on Batman 66. He was very much also in that. I mean, and one of the reasons I always respect Joan Crawford, she got him out of jail when he got picked up at a gay night. It was a theater, I believe. There were always the ones that were like, you could tell, but they did everything like you said, they put up so many walls and, they had their beard and we all know what beard is. If you don't, ask your parents. But yeah, so there was, Elton John did a duet to try to go, no, look, I'm not. And then in so many places, I remember, and speaking of him and Freddie, they had to come out as bi first. Oh, no, I'm only part gay.
Yeah.
I'm gay on the weekends. Or, oh, no, I'm aware gay. I'm only gay on the full moon.
I'm totally stealing that. I'm a where gay. I'm only part gay.
New Badgerman.
Which also brings up issues of bisexual erasure, because Freddie Mercury was gay, and so was Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, everyone says, oh, his wife was his beard. Well, apparently he was. Bisexuals exist, everybody. Bisexuals exist, and it's so hard to figure out who needed a beard and who was actually bisexual, and it's just really difficult to kind of. It's like we're gold miners panning through, trying to figure out where the representation goes in each bucket.
Which there's a very popular clip of David Bowie where the interviewer says, you've never really addressed your sexuality. And he says, I have. I'm bisexual. And she says, oh, but you've never addressed it. And he says, I have. And like the interviewer is just basically like, well, we don't know. We're never gonna know. And he's like, no, I'm bi.
But they don't like that answer.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well,
What?
I hit the wrong button.
Not touch anything get me off the floor.
So cute.
Sarah, are you poking buttons again?
I am poking buttons.
My face just went from this big to this big.
Well,
And that is I'm
Christy
sorry,
lying
Courtney, go
in color.
well, and kind of along this train of thought, in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I finally gave Adam Lambert a chance. Like I had heard about him, friends were telling me about him. Oh, you're gonna love this guy, and I had a complete misconception of what American Idol was like. So I was like, oh, but he was on American Idol. Blah, 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 blah. I'm a complete Lambert now.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna say. She
Yeah.
she brings Adam Lambert into it. I knew this was coming.
But the thing is, for me with him, he really has been the first queer person I've seen that seeing him be, genderqueer in his own way has made me go, okay, like because of him, I actually went out and bought a bunch of makeup, not just for cosplaying. I actually, like, for a while, I kind of had this struggle with, well, but makeup's so feminine, and then I'm watching him put on his makeup, and I'm like, oh, I can go kind of more extreme with it, and it's fine, and this is fun. And like, I'll wear it, I'll go out, and my friends are like, oh my God, your makeup looks amazing. I'm like, yay! But at the same time, it makes me feel like, but I can have this full face of makeup wearing, jeans and a t-shirt, and there's no problem with that, because it's just, being, it's, you don't see a lot of that, gender queer, gender non-conforming, in popular culture a lot. Either it's the tomboy who does none of that, or, even people like Adam are not, all that common. The guy who wears all the makeup. So.
Yeah,
it is becoming, like, I don't know if anybody else up here is really a Critical Role fan. Like Taliesin Jaffe wears eyeliner a lot. Him and Matt Mercer, who God knows, one of the best voice actors that everybody knows, constantly have nail polish on. And we're still seeing children that are getting bullied for wearing nail polish. But then you see these actors that in their personal lives are going a bit outside the gender norm.
Right, and so does Travis McElroy, who wears purple hair, and another D&D podcaster, and nail polish, and it's in many ways those cisgender men who use their privilege as a platform to kind of help other people address their gender dysphoria, which I certainly fucking appreciate. Excuse my language.
Yeah, that is one of the best things someone who's not on it within the family can do is advocate. And defend. And that was one of the things that always gets me is like, you can always stand up to somebody you don't know, but I've had to have this argument with, and I'm talking like in the 90s, where I was having to stand up for my friends to my friends.
Yeah.
And that's hard, but that's the way you win. You've got to win over the hearts and minds is and especially, there are always something. It's so much better now in a lot of ways. But again, as the older geek, it's like I'm seeing a lot of the same arguments now against the trans community that I saw in the 80s and 90s against the gay community. And this crap is a cycle. And it's the reason Superman calls it the never-ending battle. We are constantly having to push forward. So touching off from that, what would you guys say, or gentle thems, what would you say as to you, what are the stories on Broadway that have really helped push that, either like Rocky back in the day or what's going on right now that's pushing that?
Can I say, if we're talking about if we're talking about current productions, I'm gonna say, you know, Anne Juliet is a awesome one because they have a non-binary character, like quite literally a non-binary character in their show, and I think that is pushing the stereotype. And you know, I haven't seen the show. Okay. So I'm speaking as somebody who is looking in and saying, that's really cool. Okay. Also, you want to talk about Some Like It Hot if you're talking about current shows. Again, like they're making it not as much of do I want to say spectacle? I think I want to say spectacle.
Yeah.
They're normalizing it. These are normal characters. They're not villains. So we're no longer villainizing the queer characters. But they're not.
Bless you.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I want to say it, but I think that those are two amazing shows. And I mean, you can always go back to Rent. You know, Kinky Boots is another really great one. Hedwig and the Angry Inch, again, another amazing LGBTQIA plus show. I mean, that really normalizes it. And, you know, those are the kind of shows that I think are really great, and they're changing the conversation.
I just read the wiki on Shucked because I have not taken the time to listen to it. I know, bad theater nerd. I've been in a podcast mood, bad me. But when I saw that it was talking about how the main character was talking with her cousin Lulu, and Lulu tells her to go, and then I find out it's a man. Well, a male presenting person playing Lulu, and I was like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, it is becoming more of the norm, which I think is great. It's not like how, you know, hey, look at us, we have a non-binary character, we've got an NB, look, it's an NB, you know.
Whereas most NBs I know are, don't look at me.
Right. As opposed to Planet, look at me. If anybody got that, we can be friends.
Yes.
Courtney, Wilva, do you have any ones to add?
Sorry, restate the question, please. It's Miss America. Can you please tell me the question?
Current performers or shows, or even past ones that you think really are pushing the line and helping expand.
So I'm in my early to mid 40s, and I feel that some things are perennial, and I think, Sarah, you mentioned Hedwig. God, what a fucking piece! I'm sorry, I can't. You can't take me anywhere. What a beautiful piece of work it is. It is such a tour de force performance. Whoever is doing it, if they have been cast in that role, and it wasn't just a very wealthy person who says, "Hey, I'm going to do a production of Hedwig," like it is this transformative piece that brings the audience along through this person's entire journey, and we ask ourselves questions about how willing they were or were not to transition, and we ask about their relationship with Itzhak, and we ask about their relationship with their ex, and we're spending the whole time asking these questions, and we're also getting some friggin' bangers along the way, like just numbers that absolutely hit. I would say, I, being a little older than a lot of theater people, I am of the opinion that a really solid piece of theater comes along with us, and you see revival after revival after revival. Earlier, I was going to say, you know, a lot of it is about how the individual director and actor choose to interpret things, because I have seen productions of Another favorite, The Fantastics, where El Gallo has kind of a pansexual seducer vibe that's bringing people along. I've seen, I've seen interpretations of a number of classic musicals where someone takes this iconic character and just puts a little bit of a queer glitter on top of them. And so for me, you know what? My answer is revivals with really solid characters who either started out as queer or become queer in a given production.
And I'm going to piggyback on that. Rocky Horror, the revival. So when I did Rocky in 2003, I was Columbia, and my Eddie was actually supposed to be a woman. She had to drop out for other reasons, and I wound up with a guy. But
that would be awesome,
right? I mean, I was into it. I'm like, oh hell yeah, I got to kiss a chick on stage. Okay, and she was hot too. I mean, I wasn't complaining. But and I mean, my dream is to do a I ship it. I ship Jesus Christ Superstar, Jesus and Judas. I'm gonna ship it to the day I die. Yeah, I want to do a gender swapped Jesus Christ Superstar so bad because I want to play Judas.
I would watch the hell out of that.
I was going to mention, Judas, have y'all heard the Indigo Girls did a recording of JC Superstar in, I want to say, like the late 90s. It's a really good recording. And it's a female cast JC Superstar. It's hard to find, but it's real good.
Yeah. There are reasons I keep notepads all over my desk.
Well, I remember when Adam Lambert was on RuPaul's podcast with Ru and Michelle, Jesus Christ Superstar came up, and Adam was like, no, Judas is totally in love with Jesus, and the others agreed with him. So it's out there. He's like, that's how I'd play it if I was Judas. I mean, absolutely. But no, mine would be just the Tony Awards in general, but especially this year's. Just getting to watch, both of them get up there and go, wait, I won? Me? Little, black queer me won in the actor category. It's like, yes. I was so happy for that. But just every year, it's like, especially recently, there's always been something happening to the queer community, and the Tonys, half the people in their acceptance speeches are going, we're here for you, we're here for you, we see you, we're here for you. So 2016 Tony Awards.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's like it's like it may be the stock answer, but again, that Rocky, seeing Frankenfurter come out there and just own it. Just this is and unapologetic about it. Of this is who I am. This is what I do. Yeah, I'm the bad guy, but so what? It's just, and I would kill. I found out that there was a version run in, I think it was the late 90s, 2000s, where Anthony Stewart Head was Frankenfurter and Craig Ferguson was Brad.
I didn't know that part. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I know it's got to exist somewhere.
I would give up body parts, maybe not my body parts, but definite body parts to be able to see that performance.
Although this is, I'm sure, not endorsed by the official, organization, there are some really good Broadway bootlegs of all kinds of productions. You have to get into the community. You have to trade your bootlegs for other bootlegs, but I bet it exists.
Keep circulating the tapes.
I knew Tony Head was in that because he was in they did like a 25th anniversary or something back in the early 2000s, and he was involved in that and did a number. I can't remember what it was, but no, I did not know that Craig Ferguson was fucking Brad.
Yes. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, he did a Halloween cold open of There's a Light at the Frankenstein Place. It's on YouTube. Track it down. It's a beautiful performance. And I've seen
Brad's Brad's verse. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I've seen pictures of Anthony in the Frankenfurter getup, and it's like, God, if I wasn't Pan already. But yeah, it's like, it's just, and that's, I think, one of the things that's always drawn me to the villains and those type of characters, are those characters who are unapologetic about who they are. And we need, I feel, that representation everywhere, not, in theater, in TV, in books and everything, because, you get that message so often of put yourself back in your box, put yourself back into be normal. You have to be, it's like, no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, no. So that's, again, I always beat that drum. Representation matters, and good representation is even better. Because there is some bad representation out there. Again, talking about movies and stuff in the 40s and the 50s. Yeah, it's like it's wild to me that, and again, it's like we've come so far, and it makes me so happy, but at the same time, still so far to go. So on that vein, what do you guys think, or you all think, that we can do, or what theater can do moving forward? Should we queer more roles? Should we do more original content? Should we just be gender blind in casting? What do you all think about what we can do, or what theater people should do?
Yes. I really think we should do all of that to a degree. Okay, now we need to make sure that we don't do reverse erasure as well. And that is something that does need to be said. I mean, we don't want to reverse the or be inclusive because that sells tickets. That's another thing that, like, I think is very prevalent, especially right now, is gay for the sake of gay, and racial for the sake of racial, and that's unfortunate. But I think that we need to normalize it, and I think by doing all of those things, we normalize this community. Say, we're here, we're not going away, and we can be different. And I think that's what the community needs. Like, they need to see themselves, and that they don't necessarily need to be like splashed on the screen either. Like, it's like, let's just make it normal. So maybe, next generation, it's not such a, I would love to see where people aren't so shocked that they win a Tony Award for being an amazing actor in their role. They don't have to say, I never thought this would happen. This was my dream, but I never thought this would happen. This isn't supposed to be me. Let's not make that a thing anymore, because let's just make it normal. And that's my thing.
Sarah, I want to speak. Thank you so much for mentioning, because tokenism can be a problem. We've seen tokenism. We saw it in 90s sitcoms where, let's just jam in this diversity character and just cast an actor who fits whatever token role. I'm doing a very obscene gesture because
that's why we invited you.
You really can't take me anywhere. But so I do tend to stick in the smaller regional and touring world. So I am somewhat out of touch with the big picture Broadway stuff. But I understand there was quite a kerfuffle with a production of 1776, where a darling of the Seattle indie theater scene was like, listen, this whole thing, I'm in it. I'm a star. This whole thing is tokenism. They're just piggybacking on Hamilton. Look, it's even the 1770s. It's just a ripoff. And like, I think there is an argument to be made that it's, is the diversity there because it's organic, or is the diversity there because we are here as a diversity hire? And that's not a great feeling to have.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see you chomping at the bit, Courtney. Go.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I think going forward, it's kind of like with race. There are certain shows that really just we shouldn't be reviving, period, anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just across the board. But there are certain shows where colorblind casting just isn't going to work. And the same thing goes with gender and sexuality. We can revive certain shows, gender swap, all that, like Rent. Gender swap the entire cast and it still works.
Mm-hmm.
But certain shows, you're not going to be able to do that. And I think hopefully there's more original content coming out that has like Anne Juliet, where there is the non-binary character and this stuff is part of the show, or kind of like how casting Hamilton, that color conscious, okay, we're trying to find people who have, the best person for the role. It doesn't matter their race. Hopefully we can get there with it doesn't matter their gender for, a lot of these roles. So
I remember being told in the 90s, you can't sing this song. And I'm like, well, it's a friggin' jazz standard now. Anyone can sing this song. And they're like, well, you have to change the pronoun. You have to change the pronoun. Oh, he's so beautiful. He's so beautiful. I'm like, I'm not going to change your freaking pronoun, but even as late as I want to say 2010, 2015, I was being told, you can't sing that song. Oh, bitch, I'm going to sing Maria. I'm going to sing Maria. Maria's beautiful. I'm in love with Maria. I'm going to sing Maria,
Yeah. Message to everybody doing karaoke. You can be gay for 3 minutes of the song.
But some characters you can queer out, and it's okay. I hated it when I was younger, but I love it now. The Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, I love that movie.
Mercutio was gay AF.
Totally in love with you, Romeo. Let's just be, like. And if I were to see a performance nowadays, 20 some odd years later, I would half expect to go in and see Mercutio being played by a gorgeously flamboyant black man. Yeah.
Because that is so burned into my brain now.
Okay. I'm going to sidebar the conversation for just a second. I'm old enough that I saw that in the theater.
Same.
And I love to tell this story of I went to see it with my theater nerd friend, and we had a great time. We're walking out as the credits are rolling. We go about 3 rows, and there's the entire row of like 6 teenage girls all sitting there bawling their eyes out. And I'm like, oh. And then one of them goes, I can't believe they both died. And I'm just like, oh my God, our education system is in trouble.
But that actually, honestly, I think brings the conversation full circle, because your Ellen DeGeneres, your Nat King Cole, your Baz Luhrmann Romeo and Juliet takes this elevated culture and moves it to a place where, let's be frank, you're not so educated, potentially Trump voting individuals are going to be more receptive to seeing it, and they will go, oh, that's real cool. When he done pulled the gun, it says rapier on the side. That's real cool. It's like the gun is a sword, And
let's be real, they wouldn't know that a rapier is a sword.
No.
But you do raise a very good point, though, there, because like everybody loves to elevate theater. We've had this discussion on other panels. There are people who like to elevate the theater, and it's refined, and for the refined people, not for those lowbrow, especially Shakespeare. And I'm like, Shakespeare is the body bard.
Yes.
It's like anybody who says that Shakespeare is highbrow doesn't understand the references. Like nothing was a slang term at the time for hoo-ha, shall we say. And so lay your head in my lap and let us talk of country manner. Like, I'm sorry, but the man had dick jokes everywhere. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
I played Festy in 12th Night. That whole show is nothing but dick jokes.
Yes.
I mean,
so yeah, there is, and if we can kind of tie it back in, if we can queer up some properties to get more people in, or to get the non-queers to watch and then go, wow, those non-binary people were pretty cool. maybe they're not the monsters they're being painted as on certain media stations.
Yeah.
So that's another reason, again, representation. That's why we got to get this out there.
Well, and I have to wonder, it's like how many people went to see Chicago while Jinx Monsoon was there and didn't realize, oh, there's a drag queen right in front of you.
Yeah.
There's a
Or
queer drag
Alex
queen
Newell
right in front of you.
in Shucks,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
as an Iowa girl, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'll ever be able to watch Shucks. I'm just gonna be honest. Like the corn thing's triggering to me. But Alex, like that's one of the wonderful things. Like I love seeing people's reaction when they're like, Alex Newell wasn't born female? And it's like, does that matter?
Yeah.
Their voice sounds amazing. Don't like, and that's the thing. Like, it's just like those, and to see those like little pieces, like matter and start to happen now. It's just that's just really exciting for me because growing up in the time like I grew up, it was still the time when, as you said, they were perverts. That was like a thing. And to bring a totally non-theater related example in Big Brother, season 2, Bucky, he was a gay man and he was so scared to say he was gay. And there was another one and he was like, gay people are perverts and gay people are this and that was something they showed on network television. And now and that's on CBS. And now you have like the Tony Awards and you're seeing people like Alex on, performing as their fabulous self. And it doesn't matter what it says on the birth certificate.
Yeah. Well, and pardon me for doing this, but looking at Adam Lambert on Idol, I've heard like he did an interview with Bob the Drag Queen who was going, oh no, I watched that season. I could tell you were one of us. It was great seeing it. And it's like, you know what? That's the important thing. Queer people knew he was queer. Granted, how I agree with him. How anybody thought he was straight, I don't understand. But then again, people thought Freddie Mercury was straight. So, But the fact that after he came out, he said plenty of like grandmothers were like, oh, I love Adam. Wait, he's gay. Oh, well, maybe gays aren't that bad if he's gay.
No. And that's just it. And like, growing up, like, I mean, I've touched some on my upbringing. I went to a Christian school and I wasn't raised that way, but that was the school that my family felt was right for me because of my disability. And, being in that sheltered bubble, finally coming out of that and seeing people and, at first it was shocking. And like, at first I was like, but aren't they supposed to be like evil? Sodom and Gomorrah? That's the kind of things that go through my head. And like, but then saying, but this person, I like this person. I want to be like this person. This person is legitimately themselves. This person was how I wanted to be in high school. And that's like going back to Maureen. I would have loved to be like Maureen in high school, unapologetically myself. And I wasn't allowed to be that way through my whole, I was a Democrat. That was worse enough.
That was bad enough, right?
Yep.
Democrat in Iowa? What?
I didn't think they allowed you there.
Back then, we were actually kind of the opposite of the way we are now, believe it or not. If you want to look up Iowa and LGBTQ plus rights. But unfortunately, Iowa it's not such a strange change for me, because that's the Iowa I grew up in, was the Iowa now, because of that was my school. And luckily I had my amazing mom who put me into culture and taught me that there are other ways to think and to be. And that's like, and teaching me about the theater and teaching me that, things are different, and, allowing me to be artistic and stuff like that. And that's why, like, I think that it's so exciting now where we're at in the theater, because I've seen it grow even more. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and as much as there's so much pushback right now, which you can almost always count on the pushback as we move forward. There is the counter, but we never slide too far back. The progress is going to keep progressing. I mean, I'm not saying rest on your laurels, but we still need to keep pushing forward. But I am glad to see that we're still pushing forward. And so on that note, we've been going for about an hour. There is so much more we could talk about. I want to thank all three of you for coming to join Sarah and our little playhouse. So we're going to go back reverse order. If you would, once again, just tell everybody who you are, if you have any projects you would like to promote, or where you would like people to look for you online, and your favorite LGBTQ song. Courtney.
Well, like I said, I'm kind of more in the academic realm. So cblissacafan.com is my website. So I have any articles and stuff I've got done on there. That's really the only good place to look for me. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go with La Vie Boheme. So yeah.
Right. Christy.
Well, I am on Facebook. My name is right here. Most active. I'm a little active on everything else. You can pretty much find me under Salem Stitch, a witch in a stitch. It was given to me back in college. Lilo and Stitch was huge. I still love Stitch. It's one of my next tattoos. But I actually have a show coming up. 12 Angry Jurors. I know, me not being in a comedy. It's going to be very weird. I was definitely the only queer person at the audition. Also the only tatted, dyed hair. Yep, that was me. Somehow got cast. So that'll be coming up in August for me, just before a certain convention. So costumes might be a little on the back burner for a little bit. While I'm learning lines. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun summer. But I'll cover you, especially the reprise. It is holy fucking shitballs, Batman.
Makes me cry.
It does not matter how many times, and I do not like the Rent movie that much because it cuts so much out. But when Jesse L. Martin goes into that reprise, I am boo-hooing, even though I've seen it a million times. So that is, yeah.
All right. And Vulva.
Gosh, okay. I will save my song for the end. So this is very foolish. I was just in Atlanta, doing a tour of my show, Vulva Vavoom, Hollywood Psychic of the Golden Age, which people I'm sure will catch in their city at some point in the next few years. If anyone is down in Tampa, we are doing a run of my co-production, Stroke of Genius, Pantomime Masturbation Throughout Performing Arts History, which is friggin' hysterical.
Please tell me that is coming to Atlanta.
It's eventually it will come to Atlanta. I think we're taking it to Asheville or somewhere around there next year. And I am on Instagram, Vulva Vavoom. I'm old and I barely use it. I'm on Facebook. I really need to get better about using my social media. But I will say my go-to classic LGBTQIA song is from the Cajafol from the 1970s, I Am What I Am. And George Hearn, oh my God. But there was this freaking disco remix on this kitty broad 1990 Broadway CD, right? And it was some session musician, and it was, I'm sure, a cisgender woman, I'm assuming probably straight. She's going, I am what I am, I don't want praise, I don't want pity. And I'm like, this is a jam. All right. If anyone can find that CD for me in a Goodwill bin, I am here for it. I'm here to disco.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so thank you once again. If you are watching us on the Facebook, thank you for joining us live. If you're watching on the YouTube, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all your social media obligations, reparations, and salutations. Sarah, what is next for us?
Our next panel is Battle Broadway, where we're going to be like taking down the bracket. If anybody's familiar with the battle of the fictional bands from Classics Track, kind of taking inspiration from there. I don't know why we would take inspiration from Classics Track, Gary. But yeah, no, it's going to be a ton of fun. We are going to be deciding what show reigns supreme in the hearts of Dragon Con. So definitely join us. It's going to be a ton of fun. And that is June 22nd at 8 p.m.
Indeed. So share us amongst your friends. And I am going to thank everyone one more time. I've said thank you a lot. And I'm going to keep thanking you because, again, it's Friday night. It's 8 o'clock. You could have been having fun, and you came here to have fun with us. Yes, you could. And so I am very glad that you did.
I'm sorry, Gary. You just literally said that in exactly the rhythm of the TGIF theme song. It's Friday night, and the mood is right. Gonna have some fun, show how it's done, TGIF.
You're going to show up on a reel doing that. Just telling you right now.
I'll remember that. I don't know.
But until then, I am Gary Mitchell. She is Sarah Rose. And we will see you on the Facebook community. And we will see you at con in less than 90 days now.
74 days. I was on the website earlier.
Oh, God.
Doesn't con start on Monday, though?
Look, con started yesterday, if you ask some people.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
until
everybody,
then,
have a wonderful night. Bye.